Hello and welcome to Heroes of Boredom Builds, a show where we take you step by step in the building of a project. This week we are going to be making this block of wood into a set of coasters. Let's get started. So to begin, what we're going to do is we're going to cut the block of wood into small sliver segments. And we pretty much want to be careful while doing this because the block is a little bit bigger than your average miter saw. You just kind of want to take your time and get through it slowly. So now you can see we finished cutting out our coasters here. We have 4 in total. And so what we're going to do next is we can't just use these as is. You can see this piece has a little bit of the printing on it from the board. You can see a bunch of these, they have these burrs on them from where we cut because we went across the grain. And so it kind of tore it up a little bit. But that's not a big deal. We don't need to worry about that because what we're going to do next is we're going to take it over to my stationary sander and sand all this off. Now, if you don't have some of the heavier tools that I have here in my shop, like a stationary sander, you can still do this stuff no problem with a hand sander. The only thing that's really going to change is the amount of time you're putting into the project, the amount of effort you are spending on this exact, process. But other than that, it's pretty much straightforward. You're just cleaning it up, cleaning up the surface, smoothing it out, and getting it pretty much as ready as we can get it for the wood burning process that we're going to do next. So I'm going to go get that ready. So here we are at the stationary sander, and pretty much we just want to do slow passes back and forth. And the important thing to do here is to try to remember you want to keep the shape square. So don't go too crazy with one edge, otherwise you're going to end up with an oddly shaped rectangle. The next step of the build is to just kind of sketch out what you want your coaster to be engraved with. For ours, we decided to go with a basic Triforce design. So for this part of the build, we're getting ready to start the wood burning process, and pretty much we have our drawing laid out here on the piece of wood that we've previously worked into our coaster shape. And so now we are going to pretty much heat up the wood burner, and we are going to get ready to get this engraved into the wood. Okay, so here we have our wood burning time lapse going. And what we're doing here is we're using the wood burner, which is essentially just a heated metal tip, to essentially just etch into the wood using the heat. And you're essentially charring into it and grooving out your pattern that you had originally sketched. And it's a bit of a pain in the butt. The wood grain texture can definitely work against you if you're not careful. So it's best to just take your time. I didn't. I kind of rushed through a bit of it, and you see that in the edging a lot. So what we end up doing is we go over the edging to just kind of hide the crimes. So here you can see I've just switched over to a fatter tip, and I'm essentially just burning the whole border out to kind of give it just a boxed in effect. So now that we're done with the drawing portion for the wood burning, what we're going to do is we're going to coat it with a thin layer of lacquer to start, and then do subsequent coats as necessary to kind of get a nice finish to the wood. So here we are after the lacquer has dried. You can see that this is what we got. Pretty much all that's left to do is hit it with a very fine grit of sandpaper. Something like this, probably around a 120, to pretty much polish it up. And what you're going to want to do is you're just going to want to make sure that you have a few good coats of lacquer on here. Or, polyurethane or whatever your preference is. I used lacquer because I had lacquer already laying around the shop. And, that's how I keep my own personal costs low. I like to use what I've already got. And in this case, it was lacquer. But, polyurethane and everything will work just the same. So all that's left to do now is to take and affix the felt to the back so that the surface of whatever your coaster's on doesn't get scuffed up by the wood. So here for this part we have our felt material right here, and what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to place it on this block so that we cut on that. We're going to pretty much make a rough outline of the shape that we want to cut. So that's pretty much what we're going for.
And then we're going to take a knife. You could use a box cutter knife. You could take an X-Acto knife, whatever you're really comfortable with. And just kind of go slightly inside the lines that you've already made. Because what it is you don't want to have too much overhang going on. Because then you're going to see this poking out the sides. And that's not really the point. The point is for it to just kind of sit nicely tucked underneath the wood. So that it doesn't scuff up the surface. So now we're just going to peel off our adhesive. We're going to place it on the back. So there we go. Now we have our felt on the back so that it sits nicely on the surface without risk of scuffing it up. And there you go. We're done. Coaster is built. Alright, so there you have it. Our coaster project is done. And pretty much it's just, take, repeat, and do all the steps over again to create as many different coasters as you want. So yeah, there you go. The first episode of Heroes of Boredom Builds is complete. What do you guys think? Is this something you guys are seeing, interested in seeing more of? What kind of projects would you like to see built? Go ahead and leave a comment down below, and maybe that'll be our second episode. Who knows? I'm Jason Kajowski. Thanks for swinging by the shop. We'll see you next time.